The most interesting thing about the Pixel 10a might not be what it can do, but how much it could cost. Because according to the latest leaks, Google may finally be fixing the one thing that's held the A series back lately, its price. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you more tech breakdowns like this one. Here's what's surprising. The Pixel 10a isn't just launching earlier than expected, it's also rumored to be cheaper than the Pixel 9a. And if that turns out to be true, it could completely change how people look at Google's mid-range phones this year. Let's start with the timing. Traditionally, Google launches its A-series Pixels in March. The Pixel 9a followed that pattern. But reliable leakers are now saying the Pixel 10a could launch on February 17, more than a month earlier than expected. That alone suggests Google is trying something different, possibly to get ahead of competitors and control the mid-range conversation earlier in the year. But the bigger story is pricing. In Europe, the Pixel 10a is rumored to start at €500 for the 128GB model, with the 256GB version at €600. That's about €50 cheaper than the Pixel 9a at launch. And while direct currency conversions don't always tell the full story, this points to a possible US price of around $450 for the base model and $550 for the higher storage option. That's important because the Pixel A series has been drifting into an awkward space. It's supposed to be the smart value Pixel, but recent models started feeling a bit too close to flagship pricing without offering enough upgrades to justify it. A $50 drop may not sound dramatic, but in the mid-range market, that difference absolutely matters. Now here's where things get a little less exciting and also more honest. Almost every leak so far suggests the Pixel 10a will be extremely similar to the Pixel 9a. Design-wise, leaked renders show a phone that looks almost identical. Same general shape, same camera bar, same overall feel. Internally, it doesn't sound revolutionary either. The Pixel 10a is expected to run a slightly improved version of the Tensor G4, basically a refined take on the same chip found in the Pixel 9a. So performance gains, if any, are likely to be incremental, not game-changing. Even storage options tell a familiar story. There will reportedly be a 128GB and 256GB version, but with a twist. The 256GB model may only be available in Obsidian, while the 128GB version gets all four colors: Obsidian, Berry, Lavender, and Fog. That's not a deal breaker, but it does feel a bit restrictive if you want more storage and a bit of personality. So why does any of this matter if the phone barely changes? Because context matters. Right now, the mid-range smartphone market is getting more competitive, not less. One of the Pixel 10a's biggest rivals, Apple's rumored iPhone 17e, is expected to bring noticeable upgrades, things like a faster chipset, thinner bezels, and even Dynamic Island making its way into Apple's more affordable lineup. If Apple raises the bar on features, Google doesn't necessarily need to match it spec for spec, but Google does need a clear reason for people to choose the Pixel instead. And pricing might finally be that reason. A cheaper Pixel 10a reframes the entire conversation. Instead of asking, "Why should I buy this over last year's model?" people might ask, "Is this the best clean Android phone I can get for this price?" That's a much better position for Google to be in. Personally, this feels like Google quietly admitting something important. Not every phone needs big upgrades every year, but the price has to reflect that. If the Pixel 10a really launches earlier and cheaper, it becomes less about excitement and more about logic. It's not the phone you buy because it's flashy, it's the phone you buy because it makes sense. And honestly, that might be exactly what the Pixel A series needs right now. If Google nails the pricing, the Pixel 10a doesn't have to be bold, it just has to be fair. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section. See you in the next video. Take care.